Welcome back, everyone. Today, we're tackling an absolutely massive pain point for developers who use AI coding assistants. And specifically, we're looking at Claude Code. Now, if you've ever used it, you already know the frustration. Claude is incredibly smart, right? But it suffers from severe amnesia. It basically forgets everything the second you start a new session. But what if it didn't have to? Well, today in this explainer, we are diving into Mnemo. It's a fascinating new tool designed to completely solve this context amnesia problem by giving Claude Code permanent structured memory. Here's our quick roadmap for today. We'll start with the blank slate problem, then introduce Mnemo, dive into its 6 layers of memory, see how it's beating the competition, and wrap up with what the daily workflow actually looks like.
All right, part 1, the blank slate problem. It's a universal frustration. Literally, every developer faces this. But just imagine for a second a coding environment where you never, ever have to start from scratch. What if your AI never forgot the intricacies of your codebase, the stubborn bugs you've already squashed, or the critical design choices you've made? Because right now, the reality of using Claude Code is, well, the exact opposite.
Every single time you open a fresh session with Claude Code, boom, you are staring at a blank slate. You're forced into this endless, repetitive cycle of chores. You have to re-explain the entire project architecture. You have to manually reshare file paths, painstakingly remind Claude of past failures just so it doesn't make the exact same mistakes twice, and reconstruct all your finalized decisions. You aren't just losing context here, you are losing massive amounts of actual development time just getting your AI caught up.
So let's look at the solution in part 2, introducing Mnemo.
So what exactly is it? Mnemo is a Python-based Model Context Protocol, or MCP server. Its sole purpose in life is to give Claude Code permanent, structured memory. And what's really cool is how it actually pulls this off. It doesn't send your proprietary data off to some mysterious cloud database. Instead, it stores your entire project context locally in a highly structured, human-readable YAML file. This is known as a GTF file. Think of it like a permanent memory drive that Claude can instantly load the second you open a new session.
And that brings us to one of my absolute favorite details about Mnemo, 0. That is the exact number of API keys you need to run its core tools. No way, right? But it's true. Mnemo achieves this permanent memory natively by piggybacking on Claude's own conversation history. So no extra paid subscriptions, no messy cloud integrations for the core functionality. It is just incredibly accessible to get up and running.
Moving right along to part 3, the 6 layers of memory.
Let's peek under the hood at the technical architecture. That memory file Mnemo uses, the GTF file, stands for Graph Time Failure, and it's organized into 6 very distinct layers. The first 4 are metadata, project state, knowledge graph, and change history. Basically, these give Claude the layout of your project. It knows your tech stack, your open problems, and the history of your code changes. But look closely at the bottom 2 layers, because these are Mnemo's true superpowers. First, we have failure memory. This logs exactly what was tried, the exact error it threw, and specific trigger words to watch out for. Next is dependencies, which maps out the blast radius. It tells Claude exactly what is going to break if a specific component gets changed.
Now, to interact with all 6 of those layers, Mnemo doesn't just sit passively in the background. It actively exposes 18 distinct tools directly to Claude Code. This is a complete arsenal that Claude uses autonomously to navigate, understand, and most importantly, protect your codebase.
We can neatly break these 18 tools down into 4 functional groups. Group 1 is memory save. These are the tools Claude uses to capture your current session or immediately log a failure the second it happens. Group 2 is memory load, letting you instantly switch projects or mount a folder so Claude can read the files. Group 3 is context query. This is absolutely crucial. It's where Claude checks for past failures or assesses that blast radius before it writes a single line of new code. Finally, Group 4 is management, which just links those memory files to their specific project folders on your hard drive.
Okay, part 4, beating the competition.
When we stack Mnemo up against the heavyweights in the AI memory space like MemGPT or Mem0, the differences are honestly pretty stark. First off, API keys. As we mentioned, Mnemo requires none for its core features, while the others do. Second, Mnemo specifically remembers your failures to prevent repeating them, a real game changer that the others completely lack. Third, the format itself. Instead of locking your precious data away in some complex vector database, Mnemo uses a simple, human-readable YAML file. And finally, the installation complexity. Mnemo takes about 2 minutes to set up. Compare that to the 30 minutes to several hours you might spend wrestling with external servers for the alternatives. It's just leaner, faster, and highly targeted for Claude Code developers.
Which brings us to part 5, the daily workflow.
So the real takeaway here is how seamlessly Mnemo integrates into what you're already doing. When you're ending a session, you literally just tell Claude, shifting to new chat. Claude takes over, automatically calls the right tools, fills out a YAML template from its own memory, and saves it right to your drive. Plus, there's a silent background watcher that automatically checkpoints your session if it gets too large, and it does this without ever interrupting your flow. Then, when starting a new session, you just run the GTF switch command, a menu pops up, you pick your project, and bam! Instantly, all your context is restored. But here is where the real magic happens, during a session. Before Claude gives you a response or suggests any code, it automatically checks your planned approach against its failure memory. If it spots a trigger word that matches a past mistake, it stops, warns you, and suggests a safe pattern instead. You literally eliminate all that repetitive prompting.
The documentation for Mnemo wraps up with this incredibly powerful tagline: Mnemo, because context is everything. And in software development, that hits the nail right on the head, doesn't it? Context is the difference between writing a brilliant new feature and accidentally breaking the entire application.
As we wrap up today's explainer, I want to leave you with this provocative thought. What really becomes possible when your AI never forgets a single mistake or decision? Just imagine the velocity you could achieve when you're no longer babysitting your AI's memory, but you're truly collaborating with an assistant that compounds its knowledge alongside you every single day. If you are a developer using Claude Code, Mnemo might just be the most important 2-minute installation you do all year. Thanks so much for joining me for this deep dive. Keep learning, keep building, and I will see you in the next explainer.